Hello and welcome back to Forestedge Kart Club on the 7th of August 2022. Round 2 of the two Counties Kart Club Championships still in progress as the seniors are lined up and ready to go. Their final also 11 minutes plus a lap incoming. The temperatures are still absolutely scorching, so how will the seniors get on? Coming into this round, it's Mike Bell leading the way ahead of Anthony Cleal and Kevin O'Neill, those drivers lined up on right of shot. Paul Alexander in 4th ahead of Rob Mortimer, with Chris Underhill, Steve Groves, Ron Schoen, John Hartshorn and Martin Wheeler making up the top 10, with Robin Stoddart-Stones, Phil Shears, Paul Dybel, Joey Foster and Mike Watts completing the top 15. In the Blue Masters, it's Anthony Cleal leading the way ahead of Kevin O'Neill, Paul Alexander, Rob Mortimer and Chris Underhill all even on 10 points ahead of Steve Groves, Ron Schoen 7th ahead of John Hartshorn, Robin Stoddart-Stones and Joey Foster making up the top 10, with Phil Shears, Paul Dybel, Mike Watts, Alex Kemp and Adrian Helps completing the top 15 in the over 35s. In the Blue Veterans standings, it's Anthony Cleal and Kevin O'Neill even on points at the top of the table, Paul Alexander and Chris Underhill in behind ahead of Steve Groves and Rob Mortimer, Ron Schoen, John Hartshorn, Phil Shears and Robin Stoddart-Stones make up the top 10, with Paul Dybel, Mike Watts, Adrian Helps, David Waldron and Chris Lord completing the top 15 in the Veterans. The Blue Legends is led by Kevin O'Neill with a perfect score from round 1 ahead of Chris Underhill, Robin Stoddart-Stones 2nd ahead of Ron Schoen, John Hartshorn, Mike Watts and Adrian Helps. And in the Blue Top Weights, it's Rob Mortimer leading the way, Ron Schoen in 2nd ahead of Phil Shears, Paul Dybel, Mike Watts, Adrian Helps and Tom Parker. As the Senior Blues head out onto the track, Heat 1 today was won by Tom Parker ahead of Joe Foster, Harry Smithson in 3rd spot ahead of Paul Alexander and Kieran Quirk making up the top 5, Mike Bell in 6th ahead of Kevin O'Neill, with Anthony Cleal, Ron Schoen and David Waldron rounding out the top 10. Heat 2 was won by last month's final winner Kieran Quirk, Joey Foster once again in 2nd spot ahead of Mike Bell, Tom Parker finishing in 4th ahead of Anthony Cleal, with Kevin O'Neill, Harry Smithson, Paul Alexander, Steve Groves and Chris Underhill making up the top 10. And in Heat 3, Anthony Cleal would take the win from Mike Bell, Kevin O'Neill would finish a strong 3rd ahead of Joey Foster and Steve Groves, Harry Smithson, Paul Alexander, Kieran Quirk, David Waldron and Rob Mortimer would make up the top 10. And after the 3 heats today, the grid would look like this. Joey Foster lining up on pole position, alongside him Mike Bell in his return from COVID. Kieran Quirk and Anthony Cleal would share row 2 ahead of Harry Smithson and Kevin O'Neill. The man were on board with Paul Alexander lining up in 7th ahead of Tom Parker, with Steve Groves and David Waldron making up the top 10. Rob Mortimer beats out Chris Underhill on tiebreak ahead of Ron Schoen, David Good, Max Gunter, Alex Kemp, Mark Cook, Mark Church and Chris Lord would complete the 19 strong that we have out this afternoon. As the drivers now on the back straight on the way up to the bus stop, Joey Foster and Mike Bell keeping the pace a lot slower than the juniors. As they go through the cut through, keep an eye on Foster, keep an eye on the lights as two Counties Kart Club round 2 is underway for the seniors, and it's a good start by Foster. Bell clatters the curb and that's going to give Kieran Quirk and Anthony Cleal a chance to get up the inside as they're side by side. Harry Smithson getting stuck in there too, so is Kevin O'Neill and David Waldron, but it's Joey Foster leading the way down the hill for the first time. On board now with Kevin O'Neill, the Cosmic along in front of us, number 19, that is Steve Groves, and O'Neill attacking up through Anson's already, but it's Foster leading from Quirk, Bell, Cleal, then it's Smithson, Alexander, Groves, O'Neill and Parker as the pack storms up the hill towards midgets for the first time. David Good having a look at Rob Mortimer a little bit further back, but on board with Paul Alexander, and up the road that's Anthony Cleal making a move on Mike Bell, so Cleal up into 3rd spot. But to finish the first lap, it's Foster leading from Quirk, then Cleal, Bell, Smithson, Alexander, Groves, O'Neill, Parker and Waldron making up the top 10 as round through Johnny's they go. Down to the bottom of the hill at Winger's Dip. Looks like David Good there with Ron Schoen in tow, the two legends battling away. But Kieran Quirk closing that gap down to Joey Foster for the lead. There's Cleal in 3rd spot and Mike Bell has Harry Smithson right on his back bumper. As up into midgets, through goes Smithson. Bell trying to get back underneath and they're going to run side by side on the straight towards Climate and Smithson's going to take the place. So Mike Bell drops another spot as Anthony Cleal tacks onto the back of Kieran Quirk, so it's 3 for the lead. He's now on board with Rob Mortimer and that is number 7, David Good, in his Mac Minarelli sliding up the inside of Mortimer. And Mortimer's going to run wide and there's another one. That's number 16, that's Ron Schoen making the move through the Haynes Loop. As they're going to run down through Johnny's Max Gunter now on his back bumper. As Down towards Winger's Dip they go. So we hop on board with Alex Kemp. On a problem for Mortimer, it looks like. That's a hand in the air. Mortimer is going to be pulling off to the side. Unfortunate end to his race, so that's Kevin O'Neill attacking Steve Groves again up through midgets. The number 11 looking to move forward as we hop up the road on board with Paul Alexander. Down the inside of Mike Bell in Tollies, and Alexander makes the move, so Bell continuing to fall back. The next person to have a shot at him is going to be Steve Groves as they go round the Haynes Loop once again. As the front four begin to break away. And down the hill in towards Winger's Dip. Definite front four now. Foster, Quirk, Cleel and Smithson. They're starting to break away from the train, led by Paul Alexander in behind. And that's Kevin O'Neill having an attack against Steve Groves once again. That's about the third time this race. Groves holds off as they go up the hill towards midgets, and once again Kevin O'Neill attacking. O'Neill looking quite aggressive in the early stages of this race. Steve Groves his target as the front four really close up through Tollies. As they cross the line to start another lap they go. Anthony Cleel now looking to the inside of Kieran Quirk. He's going to make the move, but they're going to run wide. Harry Smithson's going to make it 3 wide for second. Cleel's going to slot in second ahead of Smithson, and Kieran Quirk is going to be displaced by 2 people. He's now on board with Kevin O'Neill, and he's only got the inside of Mike Bell. Steve Groves has already gone through, and Bell losing 2 spots there. As into the bus stop, Harry Smithson clatters the curb. He's giving chase to Anthony Cleel. Got some good airtime there as we now hop on board with number 19 Steve Groves, and that's Kevin O'Neill sliding up the inside in midgets. So the aggressive start to the race by O'Neill is proving dividend. His next target is up the road is Paul Alexander, who's chasing after the front four. As across the line to start another lap they go. Next up to have a crack at Mike Bell is Tom Parker in the green helmet. As through Johnny's, Steve Groves looking to get a move back against Kevin O'Neill. Ron Schoen now being chased down by Max Gunter. As into the bus stop, Anthony Cleel starting to cut that gap back to Joey Foster. Parker right on the tail of Bell on the way in, and Parker clatters the curb. Don't want to be doing that too often as they go up the hill towards midgets. And down in towards Tollies. That front four always seems to close up through Tollies. Then in behind is Paul Alexander being chased down by Kevin O'Neill. O'Neill's definitely making inroads against Alexander. As the leaders through Johnny's once again and down the hill. Then Alexander, O'Neill, Groves, Bell, Parker and Waldron. They've got Chris Underhill giving chase. As Bell looking to close that gap back up to Steve Groves. But through the bus stop it's Joey Foster leading with Anthony Cleel bumper to bumper with him. Harry Smithson and last month's winner Kieran Quirk going with them. Now we jump on board with Bell, and he's going to come from a long way back in midgets, and that's going to be the move made back against Steve Groves. But Groves going to attack back as he's on the inside for Climate, and they're going to bang wheels down in towards Tollies though. Bell gets the place against the Cosmic as they go across to start another lap, and Steve Groves already looking on the attack again through the Haynes Loop. Something tells me this fight is not going to be over yet, but Kevin O'Neill just up ahead has caught Paul Alexander. As for the lead, Anthony Cleel still on the back of Joey Foster, and Steve Groves going to make a mistake and he's going to run wide. Through goes Tom Parker, and through goes the yellow cart of David Waldron, and that's Kevin O'Neill up the inside of Paul Alexander in the bus stop. So O'Neill now up to 5th. Good start from Kevin O'Neill. As up the hill go the pack. Anthony Cleel closing in once again on Joey Foster through Tollies. Harry Smithson and Kieran Quirk going with him. Then it's O'Neill, then Alexander making up the top 6. Then it's Bell, Parker, Waldron and Groves in behind, being chased down by Chris Underhill and David Good. Then it's Ron Schoen being chased by Max Gunter. Then it's Alex Kemp across the line. But back to the bus stop. Anthony Cleel looking left, right and centre for a way past Joey Foster. There's Kevin O'Neill opening that gap up a bit to Paul Alexander. And here comes the Bell train through the chicane and up the hill. Tom Parker looking aggressive, likewise Steve Groves looking to make up the ground he's lost. There's Max Gunter chasing Ron Schoen as well. As across the line there, Joey Foster and Anthony Cleel starting to break away a little bit from Harry Smithson. And Kieran Quirk looking to attack the Birrell driver. As around Johnny's goes the battle for 5th. Now we hop on board with Steve Groves. Number 17 in front of us is David Waldron. And Groves going to line him up for a move into Windsor's Dip, and he's done it. Can he cover the exit through Anson's? Looks like he can. Steve Groves makes a place. And there's dust up in front. Somebody's off. It's Smithson. And his body language says he's absolutely gutted with that. Was running a strong 3rd and now he's out of the race. But the race carries on though as down through Tolley's go the leaders. Kieran Quirk now up to 3rd. Going to promote Kevin O'Neill as well. And there's Bell, Parker and Groves. Oh, and that was a horrible noise. That sounds like a chain going, and it's Parker. Tom Parker's out as well. So hot day at Forestedge, claiming another victim. As Bell, Groves and Waldron go down towards Windsor's Dip, but back to the bus stop. It's nose to tail stuff for the lead. Kieran Quirk doing everything he can to close that gap now, but it's Foster leading from Cleal as they go down towards Climate once again. These two of the most experienced racers on this grid, certainly at a high level, as across the line they go to start another lap. Then it's Kevin O'Neill, still holding a gap to Paul Alexander. And Steve Groves is closed in on Mike Bell once again in behind. As round the Haynes Loop goes the top 10. Steve Groves looks like he's lining up Mike Bell once again for an overtaking opportunity. As through the bus stop goes Foster and Cleal, both using a touch of that exit curb. No more than a kart length between them, as here comes Steve Groves up the inside into the bus stop. Number 19 makes the move yet again against Mike Bell. And Chris Underhill's now tacked onto the back of David Waldron. There's Max Gunter, he's on the back of Ron Schoen as well, so battling all up and down the order. As here go the leaders up towards Johnny's once again. There's Quirk in 3rd, bit in no man's land. Kevin O'Neill continuing to slightly break away from Paul Alexander. Then it's Groves, Bell, Waldron and Underhill. David Good looking to try and catch them as through the bus stop. Oh, and Anthony Cleal kicking up a bit of dust there. It's going to give Joey Foster a little bit of a gap. It's going to give Quirk a bit of hope for a mistake potentially up the road. And here comes Bell and Groves. Groves defending the inside line, but he's going to open it up at the last minute, and Bell goes down the inside again at midgets. Second time this race. Groves once again fighting back though as they go through Climate and down the hill towards Tolley's. On board with Groves, and Bell gets a big slide. Groves going to close right up to him. Bumper to bumper stuff through Parsons, and Groves lines up for the inside of the Haynes Loop. He's going to make it, but Bell trying to get back on the other side. Groves shuts the door. As they go through Johnny's, Dave Waldron's in the box seat for this, with Chris Underhill giving him pressure. And Bell looking now through Hanson's and up the hill. Nothing doing there though, and in fact Groves going to extend the gap as they go up to the bus stop. David Waldron looking to line up and move himself, but he's going to make a bit of a mistake. Chris Underhill looking for the inside as well. There's Max Gunter on the tail of Ron Schoen as they're going to head up towards midgets. The very upright figure of Ron Schoen giving Max Gunter a good slipstream opportunity. As the leaders through Johnny's and down the hill once again. Then there's O'Neill and Alexander. Steve Groves once again finding himself in 6th spot ahead of Mike Bell. And there's Waldron and Underhill. Groves going to defend down into Windsor's Dip. Oh, and he's going to cross and he's going to make a mistake. Bell up the inside through Windsor's Dip and up towards Anson's. And he's going to put the cart in the middle of the road into the bus stop. No way through there for Groves. And David Waldron now has a new target as we jump on board with Joey Foster, and that's the last lap board out. So Joey Foster leading into the Haynes Loop on the final lap. Anthony Cleal tucked under his back bumper. Can Cleal do anything? They go through Johnny's. Back on board with Foster. Down the hill towards Windsor's Dip. And it's bumper to bumper stuff. Cleal can't quite get the overlap up through Anson's. And Foster's going to defend up the straight towards the bus stop. Through they go. Nice and clean from the pair of them up towards midgets. No mistakes there from Foster as they're going to run down the final straight towards Climate. Ryan Climate, the right-hander, down towards Tolley's very defensive line from Foster. And it's going to prove dividend as Joey Foster crosses the line to take the win ahead of Anthony Cleal. Kieran Quirk's going to finish a strong third. There's O'Neill and Alexander, who's going to finish 6th. It's going to be Bell holding off Groves, but with Waldron and Underhill tucked up tight behind. David Good's going to finish a strong race for him, and Ron Schoen's going to have opened that gap up a little bit against Max Gunter. Around the final corner, good performance from the novice. And there's Alex Kemp with Mark Church in tow. It's going to round out the finishers across the line. And after scrutineering, the results are going to stand. Joey Foster takes the win by less than 0.2 of a second from Anthony Cleal, but with an even fastest lap of the race. Kieran Quirk takes a strong third to add to his win last month. Kevin O'Neill with a great run up to 4th ahead of Paul Alexander. Mike Bell falling to 6th ahead of Steve Groves, with David Waldron and Chris Underhill and David Good making up the top 10. Ron Schoen 11th ahead of Max Gunter, Alex Kemp and Mark Church, with Tom Parker, Harry Smithson and Rob Mortimer not making the finish, with 2 non-starts for both Mark Cook and Chris Lord. Well, that'll do to the championship standings. It will rocket Joey Foster up into the lead. Mike Bell falls to 2nd ahead of Anthony Cleal, with Kieran Quirk even on 6 points each. Kevin O'Neill running out the top 5 ahead of Paul Alexander and Chris Underhill, with Rob Mortimer, Steve Groves and Ron Schoen making up the top 10. David Waldron in behind ahead of John Hartshorn, with Martin Wheeler, Robin Stones and Harry Smithson going to be running out the top 15. In the Blue Masters standing, it's also going to be Joey Foster leading the way from Anthony Cleal, Kevin O'Neill in 3rd ahead of Paul Alexander and Steve Groves, with Chris Underhill, Rob Mortimer, David Waldron, Ron Schoen and John Hartshorn making up the top 10. Robin Stones even with David Good ahead of Phil Shears, Alex Kemp and Paul Dybel making up the top 15. In the Blue Veteran standings, it's Anthony Cleal leading the way ahead of Kevin O'Neill, Paul Alexander in 3rd ahead of Steve Groves, with Chris Underhill making up the top 5 ahead of Rob Mortimer, David Waldron, Ron Schoen, John Hartshorn and David Good, with Phil Shears even on points with Robin Stones, Paul Dybel, Mark Cook and Chris Lord going to be completing the top 15 in the Veterans class. In the Blue Legends, it's Kevin O'Neill continuing to lead the way with a perfect season so far, ahead of Chris Underhill, with Ron Schoen, David Good, Robin Stones and John Hartshorn even in 5th. In the Blue Top Weights, Tom Parker jumps to the top of the table ahead of Ron Schoen. Rob Mortimer's DNF drops him back to 3rd ahead of John Hartshorn, with Phil Shears and Paul Dybel equal in 5th. That's going to be all for today from Forestedge Kart Club. But the next round is once again at Forestedge, but it's going to be the NKRA Grand Finals. So we shall see you then. Goodbye.